Hey everybody, KC here. So over the years, I've paid a lot of attention to Starbucks, largely because I think it's a company, whether it's up or whether it's down, that both reflects and magnifies a lot of the issues that face retailers. And over the past, 4 or 6 weeks or so, I haven't really done much on Starbucks, largely because they're involved in this kind of reinvention, I suppose. And I thought it might be interesting to sort of step back and sort of pay attention to the big picture as opposed to reporting on the day-to-day stuff and see if I could reach any conclusions, which is what I've been doing. I've taken lots of notes, and here's what I think. So first of all, clearly, Starbucks, one of the great brand stories of the last 50 years, right? 40 years ago, they had fewer than 2 dozen stores. 30 years ago, they had fewer than 700 stores, and now they have well over 30,000 stores. I mean, it's clearly an enormous and amazing story. Now, listen, they've gone through a variety of CEOs, several of whom were hampered by their predecessor, Howard Schultz, a man with a deservedly big ego, but also a messiah complex. And, I think he believed his own press clippings and also had a sense of his own infallibility. The latter certainly did not prove out to be true. Now they've got a new CEO, Brian Niccol, who they poached from Chipotle with the king's ransom. And now that Schultz seems to be out of the operational loop, basically Niccol is embarking on this reinvention campaign, and he calls it Back to Starbucks. Now, I will say there are some promising signs, right? The company's simplifying its food and its drink menu. It's pledging not to raise prices in 2025, although I suspect that inflation could test that resolve, especially in products that have eggs in them. They're no longer charging for dairy milk alternatives. That's a very customer-friendly move. They decided late last year to get rid of the Oleato line of olive oil-infused coffee, which I think was a really smart move on two levels. First of all, it didn't taste very good, and it can't have been performing very well, despite the fact that Schultz at one point said this was going to be the best thing since sliced bread, or I guess really the best thing since ground coffee. But the second and most important thing is the fact that they were able to get rid of Oleato means that Schultz really is out of the operational loop. Niccol's in charge, not Schultz, and that's what the company needs at this point. Now, that's not to say that there haven't been some hiccups. Certainly, there's been discontent in the ranks about the fact the company's return to office mandate, which has been a little hard to swallow at headquarters, since Niccol is still based in Southern California and jets up when he wants to or when he needs to on the company jet, and they've even opened an office for him in Southern California. Saying you got to be in the office in Seattle doesn't necessarily play real well. And Niccol's ample compensation package, well, I think that could become an issue down the road if Starbucks is looking to trim costs in the stores and maybe reduce salaries. If it wants to do that, the fact that Niccol is making so much money, well, that's not going to sit well with a lot of people. But in the end, I think, it all comes down to the stores. Now, like a lot of people, I have the Starbucks app on my phone. But I got to tell you, I think they do a lousy job of using the app to draw me in and increase my frequency of purchases. It's convenient. I can earn points for free drinks, but not much more than that, really. There's no imagination and no sense of customer targeting or segmentation. Hey, listen, one thing I think they could do is bring back the bagged coffee subscription program that they had a few years ago. That I really bemoaned it when they dropped it. I was buying their coffee on a regular basis, and they got rid of a program that kept me using their product. Maybe they could even give priority to best customers, whether that's in terms of volume or frequency of purchases. Now, listen, in the stores, they're going to face the difficult reality that they have a bifurcated customer base. There's no question about it. Now, I'll oversimplify it, right? On the one hand, you've got a segment of customers who's made up of young people who are basically ordering drinks that are made of colors that have never been seen before in nature. And they make the hangout a lot less experience for the other segment, which is to say adults who want to have a cup of coffee, sit, have a conversation, maybe read something on their laptop, whatever it happens to be. It's not a pleasant third place for those people. And those two customer segments basically have competing priorities. And I'm not sure what Starbucks can do to kind of resolve that. I think restoring the condiment bar, which they've announced, and limiting bathroom use to only people who are buying stuff, well, that's only going to go so far. But I'll give you an example of what strikes me as being a classic Starbucks disconnect. So Basically, they announced that as of early last week, they were reopening the condiment bars and they were allowing people who were staying in to have their coffee to have that coffee in ceramic mugs, not in paper cups. I think that's a really good idea. By the end of last week, at least at my Starbucks, the condiment bar wasn't back. And while there were ceramic cups on the counter, the staff, who, let me tell you something, they are way overworked, and because the place is understaffed, they were doing nothing to present that option to people who were staying in to have their coffee. They didn't say, "Is this for here to go?" Right? They didn't ask that question. And here's the deal: if you use the app to offer, they don't even offer that as an option. It should say, "Are you staying in? I'd like a ceramic cup." That's not there. So they make the promise, but they don't really deliver on it. Now, listen, these kinds of things are fixable in the scheme of things. These are really small items like brown M&Ms to rock and roll bands, but they say a lot, I think, about the size of the job that is falling to Niccol and the ultimate importance of the stores in restoring Starbucks to past glory. And here's the thing. I think Niccol has a year, maybe 2 years at most, to get things right. And that's not to say that if he doesn't get things right, Starbucks is going to go away. That's probably not going to happen. But he will have squandered whatever goodwill and momentum that he's trying to have in trying to get back to Starbucks. It's a big challenge. Anyway, that's what's on my mind. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.